It's live. All right.
Okay. And we are live on air. Gonna take a few minutes here to let people join. So far we are starting to hang out. We got 7 viewers right now. Awesome. Welcome everybody. The people are piling in. This is going to be a Q&A. Here we go. I'm going to set so I can actually see the chat as well. All right. So the reason, okay. Awesome. Cool. So I'm just waiting for people to come in, and then we can begin. Because it takes a few minutes for people to come in, just be a little patient. Okay, am I cutting off at all? Because
you're good for me, buddy. I don't know about the live, but you look good on live too.
Yep.
Okay. Very good.
Thanks for your patience, everybody. We're just making sure that everyone has a chance to join before we get going on this. Okay.
Interesting. Hey Chen, yeah, I'm gonna have to do another yoga video. I've recorded another one. It's a little more intermediate. I just need to edit it. Will Peach, thanks. Medux is next to me, by the way. I'll show her in a minute, maybe. Thank you, George. All right, so video is falling behind. That's awesome. That's normal. It's 2017. We can't have these things all figured out so soon, you know? Maybe in like 10 more years. Yeah. Hey, Luca, that's a good question. So I was invited by this Discord chat server called Success Teams. And they invited me, they wanted me to do a Q&A for their chat. And because why not? I'm going to be answering just questions in regards to whatever comes up. There's a few set up already, so they're going to throw it at me, and we're just going to, you know, answer. I'm going to answer anything I could. So.
And for those of you guys that are wondering about that Discord link, everybody that uses Discord, it should be in the description of this live stream. So you can jump in over there and see the stuff going on live. We're still waiting on a couple people to join over there, but I think if everybody is ready, I think we can get this thing going. If you're ready, Mr. Antraniks.
Yeah, let's do it, I guess. Yeah. Cool.
All right.
Well, perfect. So as Antraniks said, we invited him to come to our server to answer some questions. So Success Teams is basically an online community of people that are just striving for excellence and whatever that means in their lives. And so we just support each other in various ways. So we're always looking for people who are an inspiration to come to classes or AMAs or whatnot. And so Antraniks definitely came to mind because most of us met together on Reddit. So Antraniks, you know, a little celebrity there on Reddit. So naturally, he was one of our first thoughts. So we're glad to have him here today. And I guess we'll just start off with how do you push through your worst times, Antranik? And still do your videos, still do your business and all of that?
Yeah, that's a tough question. Okay, well, hold on. I think I need to switch to my screen. Okay, yeah, there we go. You know, honestly, I don't really freak out much anymore these days. If something bad happens, or you know, anything, be anything, or depressing, you know, oftentimes I try to get myself to go back into the present moment. So, because I know, you know, that quote, I don't know if it's from the Lao Tzu, it goes something like, if you're depressed, you're living in the past, you know, you're dwelling on the past, but if you're anxious, but when you're in the present moment is when you are at peace, because you have to ask yourself, well, what I do is I ask myself, okay, if I'm like kind of freaking out because for whatever reason, I ask myself, okay, do I have food? Do I have water? Like the basics, you know? Do I have shelter? Like it's raining and I need to go underneath a roof. So usually I can take care of those things. I have food, I have water. Those things are easy to take care of. And then I remind myself, if those things are taken care of, then actually right in this moment, right now, like literally right this second, things are actually okay. So if I have like a bill to pay and I, you know, don't have the money and it's coming in like 2 weeks, well, okay, I could be freaking out about that. Or, you know, I could be just kind of like, well, okay, I'll figure out what to do. But for right now, everything is actually okay. Like right this second, everything is actually okay, right? So what I immediately would do is about to-do lists. And so I'll just list the options in my head. Okay, this is the problem. What are my options? So I'll immediately list the options so I could just move on and not dwell on this issue with no, you know, like, so I don't stay in like a loophole in my head with no resolution. So pretty much it in regards to what I do whenever shit hits the fan or, you know, whatever happens. So I guess that answers that question.
I like that a lot, man. That's an interesting way to get inside your own self and just say, hey, man, it's all good. I like that a lot.
Yeah, you know, you get better at doing that every time you do it. Like, you know, something goes wrong, you know, it's just practice. It's just practice to tell yourself, okay, like right now, I'm okay, you know, like right now, I'm okay, but you just have to remind yourself the basics, you know, like take care of the basics and then list the options in your head, what you need to do to move on.
Absolutely. Absolutely. All right, boss. Do you have a day job and are you planning on keeping it or do you want to do fitness full time?
Yeah. So haven't had like a 9 to 5 for a long time now. And like basically I've been trying to focus on fitness and run my blog. It's been running for like 6 years now, I think. And then the YouTube channel came afterwards because it's just easier to demonstrate actual physical movements with a video rather than typing it all out, right? So, and making money doing this is really difficult. It's just like any other business. You know, it's like if you want to start a restaurant, the first 3 years, you're not going to make any money. You're going to be losing money. And if you don't have the savings to be able to do it, you're not going to be able to succeed. That's why most businesses fail. And, you know, I don't feel like I'm making much money, you know, but it's enough to not go to a 9 to 5. And if I need to, what I do if I need extra cash is I find like gigs on the side. Like pedicabbing, for example, is something I do in the summer sometimes, where basically it's a pedicab is basically like I'm riding a bike and I could carry like 2 or 3 people behind me, and I'll, you know, take people between Santa Monica and Venice, and they pay me. So it's really stay fit, the outdoors. And so that's just like and another thing I'll do is like I do kite surfing, you know, kite surfing, or it's also called kiteboarding. And on Craigslist, I'll find deals that are like super cheap, like a $600 kite. I'll see it and they're selling it for like $50 or $100, like something ridiculously cheap. And I'll go and I'll visit them. I'll see if the kite's fine, I'll buy it, and then I'll flip it. I'll sell it for like, you know, a couple hundred more or something like that. So like I just have to be creative sometimes if I need to, you know, I just need to be creative sometimes if I do need to come up with more money. But I 9 to 5, because I feel like every time I go back to working for someone else, I'm realizing that my creative energy is zapped. Like by the time I get home, when I get home, I don't want to do anything. I just want to like lounge, watch TV, do nothing, you know? And that sucks, because then I'm using all my life, all my time, all my energy, working for someone else, working to fulfill their dream and not mine. So I don't even remember what was.
It was a day job question.
Yeah, I'm just asking you what your plans were, if you wanted to do fitness full time, or if you didn't want to do, or if you had a day job, or how much longer you were going to have a day job, or whatever. So I think you answered that.
I'm gonna keep keeping on with the fitness, because my real passion is to help people. So if I can just, if I can just keep doing that, even, you know, just however way I can, it's worth it to me, even though the progress is slow. You know, YouTube doesn't pay any money. I mean, it's like
not anymore.
Yeah.
It's like, but you know, whatever. But the value that I can reach so many people. Like, how many people are live right now? 44 people. So 44 people are just watching this. That's great. You know, like if I talk to someone and say these things one-on-one, that's just one person. That's useful for that one person. And then, and then I have to repeat that like 44 times, right? So, or demonstrate an exercise 44 times. But like, but if I just make a YouTube video and like 100,000 people see that or do and follow it, and they implement that into their lives, that's like really powerful.
Yeah, I definitely think you. I definitely think you help people. You mentioned that, you know, how you want to help people. I think you've got that covered, like you said, with everybody that sees your videos and all of that. So, do you want the next question?
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah. So someone wants to know what your current body weight fitness movement goals are, and they're doing your 30-day stretching routine, and it's great. And he or she says your blog is amazing too, especially the Florio breakdown, which I'm not sure what that is.
My current routine is?
Well, yeah, what your current body weight, fitness, and movement goals are.
My goals, yes.
Yeah, so the champion, what are your goals? The guy that we all look up to.
Right.
What are you striving for?
You know, every few months they're completely different. And right now my main focus has been on slacklining. And like slacklining is like its own rabbit. It's just like, it's so addictive in so many different ways. And one of my goals is actually, I'm working on my hip flexibility on my right side, because my external rotation is lacking, so that I could do specific types of sit starts and mounts on the slackline. I could do it on my left side just fine, but I want to be balanced. I always want to be balanced on both sides. So, and that's something I learned from yoga, is to be symmetrical. You know, like, because when you do a yoga routine, you'll do one side, but then you won't just stop and not do the other side. You'll always do both. So I'm applying that to slacklining, and it's really tough for me to open up my right hip in general for, you know, like pigeon pose or something like that. And then other than that, you know, I do strength training on and off. I go through phases, and right now I'm doing a pull-up program, and all I'm doing are pull-ups. Like that's really it. I'm not even doing any push-ups really, or any pushing or dips or whatever. And that's only gonna be for like the next month or two, and then I'll switch. It's really like I'm really fluid. There's so many different things going on. Like one month it'll be like acro yoga related. Another month it'll be something like a pure strength move. Other times it'll be something more flowy, like something on the traveling rings. So that's a really, you know, ever-changing, goals are ever-changing. And because what happens is when you get the goal, you know, life doesn't stop. You just immediately will want to go to the next one. So like, yeah. And then was there more? Yeah.
I think you had it. They were just asking what your current fitness goals were, and I think you answered that. I think you're good there. Let's see. We're gonna jump into. Are there any hard things that you're not doing right now that you want to be doing?
Are there what? Sorry, it will cut off.
No, that's okay. Are there any hard things you're not doing right now that you want to be doing?
Yeah. You know, I always want to be more focused. You know, like I'm just like everyone else. Like I grew up, like, well, I was born in 1983, and my first computer I got in 1991, thanks to my father, and he only bought it because it was like he would get a tax break or something like that, and and he never even used the computer, you know. But I started using it, and like I think, you know, we all how could I say, we all have technology, we all have phones and computers, and that I think contributes to our lack of attention, our attention span decreasing. And so it's been really difficult for me to focus like gung-ho, like every year. And that is always one of my goals, so that I'm more efficient. Because you know, the things that I'm successful at aren't particularly hard. They're not particularly difficult. They just require focus. So that's I think one of those things.
Well, that kind of leads into the next question. What are your success habits then? You know, every day, what are your success habits? What makes you keep ticking?
The success habits. The first, 1 second, I'm going through. So the thing that is imperative for me is to create a to-do list every morning. So whether that is a pen and paper, some days it'll be just a pen and paper. Other times it'll be a notepad, like I'll open a notepad on the computer. Other times it'll be just on my phone. I'm just making a list, you know? It's just like whatever I feel like doing that day, I'll jot it down in the morning. Because in the morning, after I get up, I'll make my bed. You know, rather than just rush up and go on the phone, I'll kind of like be thinking about what I'm going to be doing that day. And that helps a lot. Some people, a lot of the people I look up to, they meditate before doing anything. But I'm trying because it's really difficult to just meditate for me first thing in the morning. But I see the benefit in that, because it's kind of like when you're taking a shower. If you take a shower in the morning, You get those shower thoughts. And that's a sort of meditation, right? And then you start to think what you need to take care of. Anyway, but there's only so many things you could think of or hold in your mind, right? And it's really, really important to have that to-do list. I think that's the number one thing, because anytime I lose focus, going back to focus, I'll just look at that list and see what I need to do, I also have like a bookmark folder of things that I check daily. So I'll right click that folder and then do open all tabs. And then it's like 20 different things that I'd like to check every day, whether it's email or subreddits or, or if it's an online client or something I need to look up and update them on. So I find that saves me a lot of time as well. And I find that I have the most creative juice in the morning. So if I make that to-do list, I look at the thing that requires the most creativity and the thing I have the most resistance to doing, try to get that out of the way first. All right. So I've said that before in blog posts and stuff, but that's actually one of the most helpful things. If I make that to-do list and prioritize the thing that I want to do the least and do that first, the rest of the day is a breeze. Like everything else I'll do easily,
I've heard that a lot recently from several different sources, and you actually answered one of the other questions, which was how do you decide which goals to strive for? And I think on a daily basis, you just answered that question, but on a life basis, how have you decided what goals you're striving for?
Nice. Awesome. By the way, is there a little bit of an echo? I don't understand where it's coming from. If it's my end.
Yeah, we're having a little bit of a difficult time tracking it down because it's intermittent. Like right now, it's when you're just barely talking, there wasn't an echo, but
yeah, it's strange. I'm on headphones.
Yeah, now there's an echo. So
yeah.
we're trying to figure it out.
Yeah, maybe in 2018 we'll have it figured out.
I call it the almost future. We're at the almost future where we're just right there on the cusp of having all the technology work together flawlessly.
Right.
So yeah, so what about your life goals? How did you decide, was it just built off your passion? Was it, for fitness and all of that? Because you kind of hinted at that a little bit earlier on about, coming home from a 9-to-5 and just being, tired and the creativity sucked out of you. So I'm guessing that is one of the criteria for your life goals is being able to express yourself. So would you elaborate a little bit more on how you chose that?
Yeah, I guess someone else asked me that like a year ago, and that's a tough question, what drives me? I guess it's just I find the common theme in my life is that anything that I'm learning, I like to share it with other people because there's no use keeping it to myself. What good is it? What good is all this information if I just keep it in my head? Share it with other people and get it out there, right? Get it out. And then I also get out because keeping things bottled up, not emotionally, but just information in general is emotionally too. But I mean, in regards to helping others, that's what drives me. That's the most gratifying thing because then I can just, that's like I don't need to necessarily have kids to help men evolve, right? So or and when I say men, I mean humankind in general. So.
No, we just knew you meant the men only. Come on.
Yeah, men only. I want only men.
Awesome. No, that's great. I know one that a lot of people wonder, and I think I saw it on the list there, and I know that I saw it on some Reddit posts when we were doing this, getting ready for the AMA. Tell us a little bit about growing up, where you're from ethnically, and how you got your cool accent, and And let's do a little fun question.
Oh yeah, I always get that question. Well, the first thing I tell people is, I born and raised in Los Angeles, and that usually blows people's mind because they go, well, Los Angeles, that's in America. Why do you have an accent? But I'm Armenian, and my parents grew up speaking Armenian, and I mean, I grew up speaking Armenian in the house because of my parents. So, yeah, like I didn't really even. I don't think I spoke several years because they took me to private elementary school. So like kindergarten, first grade, and second grade, I was in an Armenian private school. And so the people teaching me English are probably they were foreigners themselves, you know, like so. I just find that funny because it's affected my own accent, and then my friends, you know, they're Armenian friends as well. So yeah, so that's about it. It's interesting from a linguistic side, you know, because I didn't even know I had an accent until like I don't until I started really until I started going to college, honestly.
Everyone starts telling you, "Oh man, I love your accent." You're like, "What are you talking about?"
Yeah, I was just like, yeah, it just kept happening more and more, and like, yeah, it was so interesting. Like,
I love it.
by the way, the echo is gone, right?
It was blue shirt, man. I'm sorry, everyone. It was blue shirt, man.
Get out the pitchforks.
It was blue shirt, man. Let's see. Okay, this is more of a centric to a fitness kind of question.
Sounds good.
All right. Hello, Antraniks. I'm a 5'5" male, 160 pounds. I'm looking to lose mostly stomach fat. I rarely exercise, but I'm trying to eat fewer calories per day as a starting point. What exercises or diet changes could you recommend to someone like me? And thanks for being such a huge inspiration to me and many others.
Okay. They say they barely exercise, or
That's what, yeah, he says he doesn't rarely exercise, but he wants to start eating less as a starting point. That's his starting point. So he's saying, what exercises or diet changes would you recommend to somebody like him?
Right. Well, personally, because I'm into bodyweight exercises, I recommend the recommended routine on the Bodyweight Fitness subreddit, and if they just Google recommended routine bodyweight fitness, that is a pretty good routine. Other than that, they don't sound overweight, but they could be weak. Routine is a strength training routine that can help them. And it's a great template in general. So if you do that routine for maybe a couple months, maybe you can modify that template later on to suit your own specific goals once you figure out what your weak points are. And then in regards to diet, you know, like everyone says, like everyone knows that they need to eat less to lose weight, right? But I'm a huge fan of counting calories, because it makes it super logical and in your face. Like if you just log what you're eating and MyFitnessPal, it's clear as day. Like, oh, it's, you know, like it'll tell you you need to eat, let's say, 2,000 calories. Okay, what if you're eating 2,000 calories? You start logging and you realize you're eating 2,000 calories by the time it's like 3 o'clock in the afternoon, you know? So like, that is, you know, that can happen, right? And you would have no idea. Like your breakfast, 1,000 calories, and you had no idea, like that butter that you were using in the omelet and the olive oil in the salad and the, you know, like all these things kind of add up that we don't, or the mayonnaise, like I'm not, you know, and I'm using those fat sources, not because fat is bad, but because they're very they're dense in calories. So it's easy to just not realize that is like you're sneaking in a few hundred calories without even realizing. And that could be the difference between maintaining your weight and or slowly increasing. And you know, if someone is 5'5", like 5'5", 160 pounds, maybe they don't need to lose weight or gain weight, but counting calories is, I think, a life lesson. It's something that will stay with you. Because everyone needs to eat, right? Every day. Like, you don't have to eat every day, but you probably are eating every single day. And not just every single day, but multiple times a day. So, and this is true with like pretty much everyone in the world, right? So it's best that we get a handle on understanding what we understand, have a really good understanding of what 2000 calories really feels like, or whatever your goal is. Then you can look into refining the diet more, and you know, maybe paying attention to the amount of protein you're ingesting, or the amount of sugar, and things, and then like refining it, you know, and then paying attention to those macronutrients, and then adjusting those ratios. And you know, it's just like a build, but the foundation is just the calories, and then you build up that knowledge slowly.
Yeah, I think that's very important that you mentioned about the fats, because most people don't measure those when they're, you know, cooking something up. They just eyeball it. Oh, that looks like a good amount of oil to use for cooking my meat or whatever, you know. So, and that's a lot of times people, like you said, and I think the misconception is people think, oh, it's just by day. So I was at my calorie mark today, but they don't realize that it adds up. So if you're over 100 calories every single day throughout the week, you know, that adds up, and you're slowly putting on that weight throughout the week. So eating good one day doesn't matter if you're eating poor all the other days. So yeah, good point there.
Yeah, and it's really not really, if someone is trying to lose weight, you know, and they have a bad day, it's okay. Like in regards, like if you overeat one day, it's okay, because it's not really about eating at a deficit every single day. It's more about that average for the week. Or it's normal to just, you know, we're not machines, you know, like we have, food is associated with like culture. It's a very social thing, you know, family, you know, a lot of people bond with their family only with food, you know, like they sit to eat together, or they go out to eat, and that's like the only thing they maybe even do together when they're older, let's say, you know, especially during the holidays. Next issue, because, and counting calories can help you bring awareness to when or what triggers you to get that food sometimes that you might have not even noticed, right? And not everyone and the other thing is, if you are overweight, and the reason I mention overweight is because most of the population is overweight, so it's more relevant. If you are overweight, understand that you didn't gain that weight in like a month. You gained it over time, a long time, years maybe, you know. And so losing it, you know, it might not take years, but it's not gonna be done and over with in a month. It's a process. So be gentle with yourself, be kind to yourself, don't be hard on yourself. Don't be, oh, I had a bad day, it's all over, fuck it, you know, like I'm just gonna say fuck it to this diet because it didn't work after a week, right? So it's like you gotta think of the long haul, right? And be,
definitely.
I think number one issue has got to be that people just throw in the towel after a bad time, and that's what is not addressed in so many diet scenarios. Everyone just needs to, hey man, you had a bad day, get over it, keep going.
Right.
It's okay.
And if you have a bad day because you go out and eat with friends or whatnot, you know, you're devaluing that time that you spent with the friends. And then all of a sudden spending that time with the friends became a bad thing as well. And you can't let that happen. So that's a beautiful point. I mean, even if it was because you got emotional when you ate, you know, if it's your comfort and that happened, then, you know, again, don't put that extra stress on it and that extra emotion on it. Like, don't beat yourself up twice. Just, oh, I had a bad day, let's move on, you know. Very good point. The next question, so it says, hey, Antraniks, thanks a lot for your hard work over at Bodyweight Fitness and the recommended routine. I am doing the recommended routine and have a couple of questions. One, do you recommend folks take a multivitamin or vitamin D or omega-3 supplements? If so, which ones and in how much quantity? And two, I can do the 3x8 incline push-ups, but I still can't do a single floor push-up. I can't go any lower on my incline push-ups because there's no lower surface. Do you think I should replace the incline push-ups in my routine with the 3x5 negative push-ups? Because I did some negative push-ups the other day and it was hard and I got sore muscles.
Okay. Yeah, like okay, I'll answer the push-up thing first. First of all, if they are saying that they can't find a lower platform to do the incline, that is really hard to believe. Because you got to be creative, you know. You have to find ways to, you know, as between a table or a kitchen counter, let's say, and the floor. There's got to be maybe a chair you can use or something, you know, like there's got to be something. Or you go outside and there's like a stair step or a ledge that's just like not too high, not too low. But okay, let's say that they option, there's no something in between, then yes, negatives could work. The trick to negatives is to do them slowly, as slow as you can. So eventually, you know, you do the push-up as slowly down as you can, and resisting that motion, and that help a lot. So yeah, negatives could work if that's your only option. And the other question was on supplements, right? And omega-3s. I actually only take a multivitamin every day, and I take fish oil if I haven't ate fish that day. And I eat fish pretty regularly nowadays, in the form of sardines. I know sardines, I know, but you know, I like sardines, so you know. And a lot of people think they're like anchovies. They're not anchovies, you know. Anchovies are really salty. Sardines are a little salty, but not too much. So I like them. And so, and the reason for the sardines is because they have those omega-3s in them, and they don't have the mercury accumulation, smaller, they're lower on the food chain. So what was I saying about that? Fish oil, right? So I'll take fish oil if I haven't ate fish that day. And you know, you got to read those labels, because it'll say like 1,000, like let's say one capsule is or 2 capsules is 1,000 milligrams. Well, what you actually want is the DHA and the EHA. And if you look in the details of the nutrition facts, maybe only 300 milligrams of that 1,000 milligrams is the actual omega-3 fish oil. So and other brands, they might have. So don't always get the cheapest thing. Don't always get the cheapest product, because it might not actually have it might be fish oil, but it might not have the omega-3s as concentrated as some other brands. So you kind of have to read the labels. But yeah, I try to get in once in a while. I know it's a lot, but I think fish oil is one of those only things that studies consistently show that the omega-3s are beneficial to us. And it's really difficult to see studies that have such consistent results. Now, a lot of conflicting information, but in regards to fish, that is one of those consistent things that seem to be positive. So I also feel that because of that a pescatarian diet is probably one of the better diets. And I'm not like a pescatarian, like I don't only eat fish, but I try to eat it more than I used to. And that's just one of those things, you know.
Right. Well, and they say like the Mediterranean diet as well, because you get all those omega-3s. And you're right about all the studies with the omega-3s consistently, you know, people duplicating and finding the same results. I've heard several times that it taking it daily helps alleviate symptoms of depression. It helps so many things. And if you eat a lot of omega-6, which eating too much omega-6 is bad for you, then eating more omega-3s than omega-6 cancels that out. So omega-3s really are good. I completely agree. That's a good answer. Braden, do you have the next question?
I certainly do, and I feel like this one's nice and fitting, and it pretty much just came in off of the live stream. So thank you, Mr. Nice Bryce, for this. I feel like this is the perfect question for somebody like me to ask because I'm a lift big to get big kind of guy. So how about some suggestions for folks who want to gain strength without adding much bulk or weight? Because I have no earthly way of answering that question.
Yeah, so there's a limit to how much strength you can gain with the amount of muscle mass you have. There's neurological gains, meaning like you will, let's say you're not good at doing pull-ups, right? Because you don't do them much. And the movement pattern is not ingrained in you, right? So you start doing them. You do the exercise over and over and over and over. The movement pattern is really strong. But if you're not eating enough, right, and you're not actually, there's going to be a limit to how strong you can get with the current muscle mass that you have. And I was in that mindset as well before. I didn't want to get bigger because, oh, that sounds bad. Like, I don't want to get bigger, right? But it came to a point where I realized I can't get any stronger unless I eat more, like, and get it a little bit bigger, literally. Like, if the cross section of the force, the amount of force that the muscles can produce is limited. And so it's not just looks. They're not just big, like, and not strong. They're strong. So you have to eat at a slight surplus, like a caloric surplus. Like, if your fear is that you don't want to get fat, that's understandable. That's where I was totally there. And the reality is people go through bulking and cutting cycles where they overeat slightly to gain strength, and with that comes a little bit of fat gain because it's inevitable. You're putting your body in an anabolic state where you're building, you're growing, and with that comes a little bit of fat storage. And what people do is they go on a bulk because that's the most efficient way. Your body, if you're strength training and eating at a slight surplus, when I say surplus, something like, if you can do 200 calorie surplus, that's great. But I would say 200 to 500 is more legit, because if you're not accurately counting your calories, 200 might not be enough. So let's say a 500 calorie surplus alongside strength training, you will have strength gains. Okay, like, that will happen. And if a little bit of fat comes along the way, what you do is you continue the strength at one point. When you feel you're getting a little too big or chubby or whatever, you basically eat at a caloric deficit. You go on a cut, what's known as a cut, and while you continue your strength training to maintain your strength, and that sends a very strong signal to the body to shed the fat. Okay, and if you keep the strength training, it maintains the strength. And people go through these bulking and cutting cycles because that's the most efficient way to do it. Okay, it's unfortunate, but like, if you don't eat enough and you're strength training, you're gonna reach a limit eventually. And you could try it. If you're already big to begin with, or whatever is the reason you're asking this question, okay, like, make use of what you got. Eating at the exactly what you need at maintenance, what we say at maintenance, is, a lot of people say it's like spinning your wheels, like you're kind of going nowhere. But if you send the body a strong signal, like, hey, we're getting food, we're growing. Increase, and if a little bit of fat comes with that, which is inevitable, that's okay, because you know everything is a cycle, everything is a phase, just like seasons.
Well, and to provide a little insight on that, I weigh 205 pounds now. I started at like 120 pounds when I was like just out of high school, so I was a very skinny guy. Yeah. You'll go through the cycles of bulking and cutting, and that's okay. I would work on agility in the cutting phases because you'll be a little more nimble, you'll be a little more agile in that respect. But you want to bulk and cut, or else the muscle growth is just not going to be where you want it to be. That's what Antraniks is trying to say.
Right, and I think it's a lot easier to cut than it is to bulk. So if you're getting a little bit fat when you're bulking, fine, because it's so much easier, I think, to cut that off, especially if you're, you know, you're staying at your routine and maybe working on some agility stuff like Braden said. So definitely I wouldn't worry about the fat as much in the bulking phase, because I think it's a lot harder to consistently put on that muscle. So
yeah, that's a very personal thing. It really varies from person to person. Some people have trouble eating enough, and some people have trouble, you know, eating too much.
Eating too much, yeah.
Like it depends. It also depends on your culture, you know. If you're in, like, because I'm raised in an Armenian family, we're all about food, you know. A lot of things revolve around food. So I was raised, you know, you gotta eat. You gotta eat. What do you mean you're not eating? You gotta eat. Like, you gotta eat. What do you mean? What do you mean you're not gonna eat more? You gotta eat. Like, so that's like a very so it's something like I've had to deal with. Like, it's been a real process to not eat a lot, and then whenever they force you or want you to eat more, to deny, like to say no, like I'm good. Like, that's, you know, so it depends. For some, it's easier to not eat so much, and vice versa. It goes both ways. Yeah.
Definitely. So here's another fitness one. Hi, do you think I can replace deep step-ups with pistol squats in the leg routine of the recommended routine?
Yeah, you can. That's a common replacement. It's nothing. Yeah, it's not wrong to replace them with there. The only reason deep step-ups are there is because it's a little bit you don't reach a limit. You can make deep step-ups harder and harder, as opposed to pistol squats. There's a limit to how high of a platform you use and whatever. So yeah, that's fine. Pistol squats are cool.
Awesome. Yeah. And then the next one is, well, I mean, it's fitness related, but not exactly body weight. Hey, Antraniks, I follow you on Instagram and see you regularly uploading stories about hiking. Do you have any suggestions for good hiking routes? Thanks.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. Do they live in Los Angeles?
I'm guessing it sounds like they probably live near you because, you know, hey, any good routes in Colorado you know of?
Right. Yeah. I don't know. Like, I wouldn't know anywhere outside of LA, but in LA, I go to if you are in LA, the Santa Monica Mountains are full of hiking routes, and I actually have a pretty good about somewhere on Reddit. But if they can message me or email me, if you're watching this, email me or, you know, message me, and if you're in LA, I can send you some routes. But otherwise, you know, I wouldn't know what the best route would be where you live. Sometimes there's good hiking routes on Yelp, you know, like just type something like waterfall, you know, see what comes up. Like
I've found
cool, you know, tour.
an incredibly valuable source for hiking routes. They're everywhere if you look.
Yeah, and Yelp has pretty good information sometimes in regards to hiking. So yeah.
Well, cool. We'll throw another, well, easy one maybe. I don't know if it's easy or not. What is your stance on foam rolling the lower back?
All right. I always recommend people to not foam roll the lower back. You can foam roll most of the body parts, pretty much, except the lower back, because And that's like a controversial thing. I mean, people don't like that. Like, because some people love to foam roll their lower back, and they've been okay doing that. But that's not that's not something I can recommend people to do when I'm talking to a general audience like this, because yeah, you can foam roll your upper back all day. That's fine, because you got ribs attached to your upper spine, right? You got your column here, and you got your ribs surrounding you. But the lower back doesn't have that integrity. So if you are compressing the vertebrae, or it could be herniating, that disc, the intervertebral discs in between, especially if you're overweight at all. Like if someone is overweight and they got a lot of belly fat, right? And they're foam rolling their lower back, that could be way too much pressure for their vertebrae. So in general, I recommend people to not do that. And if they have lower back pain, you could target the lower back maybe with a lacrosse ball, but what I would recommend is get a lacrosse ball and roll over your glutes or the upper part of your glutes, because sometimes that will, if those areas are tight, they are most people, especially when you sit a lot, is that like tight glutes will refer pain to the lower back oftentimes. And so alleviating that with some self massage with a lacrosse ball or even a tennis ball or any hard ball will do it. And then other than that, lower back pain relief oftentimes is stretching the hip flexors, which I have a YouTube video on lunges. If you type stretch your hip flexors and my name Antraniks in YouTube, you will find a 2-part video on how to do that in detail. And that is imperative. I do that every day, stretching my hip flexors. It's like that's an imperative. Like I'll do that right after this is done, probably. Like after I'll stretch a bit. It's just that's another thing. Since we all sit a lot, like it's great. It's imperative to take breaks often, and even just like standing and like just like stretching out, right? Like just like your cat or dog would do every hour. You know, that's actually something I did for a long time. Is every time my dog stretched, I stretched. Okay, and I found out she was stretching so much that I could barely even keep up. So like every hour she was doing like downward dog or something like that, right? And I'm like, okay, again, all right, I'll do it again. Like, you know, and so it's amazing. Animals, they're not like in a rush, right? They're just in their present moment. All they do is reflect pure energy. Like this, if they feel like stretching, they'll just stretch. They're not like, oh, I don't have time for that, right? So so it's really cool to look at animals and follow them.
So we actually had another question that was along those lines. It says forward neck and rounded shoulders are 2 of the most stubborn quality of life problems associated with modern jobs. How do we reverse those effects with a more aggressive fitness routine? So would you consider that being one of the things that you do daily and all the time during the day?
Yes.
Is there more that you'd add to that question?
Yeah. You mean like so they said forward neck, like, and
Yeah.
rounded shoulders, right? Yeah, like if they don't have a strength training routine, especially any pulling exercises like rows and pull-ups, they should work toward those, because that will strengthen the back and the muscles that pull the shoulders back and whatever, and it becomes easier to hold proper tension. But oftentimes the chest and the front of the shoulders are also tight, so they need to be, and the lats get tight, which is like over here, and those pull the shoulders forward. So stretching the lats is really important. I have a really good YouTube video on how to stretch the lats. I would say just Google or YouTube lat stretch Antraniks.
Or really just watch all your YouTubes, right?
Yeah, but that one stretch in particular, it says like lat/shoulder stretch for posture. That's the title, something like that. Is really something I do. Is one of those things I do every day, and it's really nice. It feels really good. Other than that, I mean, if they do have like an issue with the forward neck, like if it's jutting forward often, which will happen because we're texting, like we keep looking down or we're like on the computer. Learn the chin tuck. The chin tuck is not this, but it's kind of like this. Like you gotta try and pretend you're making a double chin. So basically, like this, like to help put your head back. You know what I mean? Because if it's jutting forward, like you just gotta, and it's kind of weird, but yeah, you don't have to do it that extreme, but it's just a way to remind yourself consciously. Because sometimes you have to be like, if I say fix your posture right now, you're gonna fix your posture, right? Maybe, yeah, I don't know, hopefully. So, and you have to sometimes consciously do that, and until it becomes automatic. The backside, because if you only do push-ups, it only strengthens the front and then tightens the front and then makes them even more rounded and gives you a rounded back more. So you have to do that combination of stretching and strengthening. And also, if your computer setup is not optimal, like if you're sitting on something that's like 12 hours, you're sitting like 8 hours a day in front of this computer, right? And it's like too low or too high, or I don't know, whatever it is, it's going to be detrimental in the long run. So ergonomics, look up Google images, ergonomics computer setup or something like that, and you'll see like what's the right height for your computer. It should be like eye level, you know what I mean? So maybe if it's a laptop, you could put like a thick book underneath your laptop, and then it'll make it more like eye level, so you're not looking down all the time. Maybe you're looking straight ahead. So yeah, it's something that needs to be worked on, but don't feel like it's impossible, because I used to have bad posture, and
Me too.
I was like a computer nerd, and all I did was like, I didn't do yoga and stuff before, but yoga helped a lot, and then it helped me restore that mind-body connection, help stretch and strengthen the postural muscles. So there are many ways, just work on it, and don't give up. Just trust the process. It might not undo years of bad posture in a month, but take photos. That's another big photo is amazing, and you wish you would have done it before, but you can't go back in time and in your time machine and take that before photo, right? So take that photo. Take that photo maybe from the side of your just natural posture, and then compare what it's like a month from now. Because when you feel nothing has changed a month from now, when you look back at that photo, you might notice huge changes that you wouldn't have otherwise have noticed. So, yep.
All right. Let's see. What we got here? I'm just going through a list here. Do you consider yourself successful? And if so, when did you start feeling that way? And if not, what's the milestone you want to reach to feel that way?
I don't know. I mean, that's a tough question. I feel successful in my life in regards to being able to help people, but I still feel like no, I'm definitely not there yet in terms of like overall success. I mean, part of success for me, true success, is being able to be free, and part of freedom is having financial independence and financial freedom. And I don't know if when that'll happen or if that'll happen, but that's like one of those goals that I hope to experience and I'm striving for. And I'm kind of slow at everything, so I feel I'm a late bloomer in everything in life. Like everything is coming, but it comes a little later than everyone else. And maybe it's because I'm a little too meticulous or perfectionistic or detail oriented. But in the end, it's okay, because like, so it's not about being wealthy. It's about being wealthy in the mind, your state of mind. The fact that I can make my own schedule and I can go out to the beach 3-4 times a week to just let go and do movement exploration, play, strength train, do whatever I want to do is wealth to me. So in some way, in a lot of ways, I'm successful, I guess. But that's like a process. Like it's all relative. So a year from now, hopefully I'll be more. And the main important thing is just being in the flow of life, like if you're able to just be in the flow. And one of those things that helps me is whenever shit hits the fan is to understand that in the future, I'll look back and realize that somehow this was a blessing in disguise, because that's what often happens. And that's a really optimistic way of looking at life. Maybe it's not, maybe that's not the most, maybe that's not realistic to some people, but hey, it's all about oftentimes I look back at things that I thought were horrible at the time, and I was feeling really bad about it. But then I realized, no, these other scenarios would have never happened if that bad thing didn't happen, right? So, whatever cards you're dealt, you just got to play them.
Yeah, definitely. So that kind of leads to this next question: is any key tips for motivation? And I'm guessing motivation in general, maybe motivation with a routine, anything.
Yeah, motivation. Motivation waxes and wanes. There's a common saying, right? Like, don't wait for the motivation to come, but just it's more about discipline, right? Sometimes you just gotta fake it. Sometimes like the motivation doesn't come and you're just like, you know what, I'm gonna make my to-do list, and even though this is the last thing I really want to do, but it's the right thing I need to do, and you do it, that's the best thing you could do for yourself. And then you'll feel so good afterwards, and you'll feel that motivation. That's like I guess that's the best thing. Like that's it also comes back to, again, it comes back to that to-do list. So even if you're not feeling motivated to do what's on the list, just it being there, you prioritizing it, maybe numbering, this is number 1, this is number 2, and keeping that with you helps. I think that helps. So on some days the motivation isn't there. What can we do? Just sometimes you gotta fake it, I guess.
Well, and in my humble opinion, I think that motivation half the time is fake because you're getting excited about something you have not done yet. So discipline is the king there, because you're not always going to feel like doing it. So I'm 100% with you there, man. It's more about discipline.
Yeah, that's a good way of putting it. And discipline is hard. Discipline is really hard, especially in this day and age when you got so many distractions. You're getting notifications here and there, and like, turn off those notifications, by the way. You don't need to be distracted by some app. Like, who are they to like take your time away, right? Like, your time is the most valuable thing on this planet. Like, your time you will never be able to get your time back. Okay. And we're all going to die. Unfortunately, that's the case, right? Like, I went through that existential crisis a couple of years ago where I was just like, holy shit, am I? And everyone else is going to die. Like, and this is real, right? Like, it sucks, but it helps me to understand that your time is the most important thing. So notifications, going back to notifications, or anything distracting that isn't really going to help you, turn those off. That's a huge thing, because it's so easy to get distracted. Everyone wants your time. Everyone wants your attention. All these apps and whatever else. So, yeah.
Yeah, I can't tell you how much it's helped my productivity just to turn off all notifications, even messages. I'll set, I'll check my messages at lunch or, during a break. But other than that, all my notifications are off, and it's amazing the difference that it makes. And people don't realize, I think, because it comes on slowly. Again, like every other bad habit in our life happens slowly. because we're just doing, you know, a little each day, adding an app and adding more friends and all of that. And then pretty soon that's our life, is just constantly in front of a screen. So definitely.
Yeah.
Braden, do you have the next question? Do you want me to go?
Yep, I think, let's see. What time do you get up in the morning? And is it the same time every day? What habits do you always do before starting your day? We talked about meditation, and a huge +1 for me on that. But what time do you get up, and is it the same time every day?
It tends to be around 8 a.m. I don't know why. It just happens.
It works.
I don't need to be at work at 9, but it just naturally like that happens. It's because I sleep around the same time, around 11 to midnight sometime. So I mean, if you sleep at the same time, you tend to get up at the same time, right? What was the other question? I get up. What time do I get up? And
what habits do you always do before starting your day? And you know, Braden said the meditation, and you said the to-do list. Do you have anything else that you always do before you start your day?
I don't know really. Other than that, no. But one thing I could say is that I think I said this before, but was before I would really I would literally bed, right? I don't do that anymore. I kind of I'm awake. Okay, let's relax for a minute and just take a moment to just start the day off on a more, I guess, how do I say?
It's calm and gentle.
Just not so not so haphazard, jumping from thing to thing. No, wait, I have a minute here, a few minutes. Let me get up, wash my face, stretch. Those are a few things I do. I like to make my bed as well, by the way, because I like to just make my bed in the morning, so that when I go to sleep at night, it's already ready, it's nice. I like that, and that gives me a little more time before I jump onto the computer or whatever, and then it also helps me to start thinking, what is it that I actually want to focus on that day. And then again, I'll make a to-do list every morning. Almost every morning I'll make a to-do list, and that's probably
so more of a mindful approach. It sounds like you're just being mindful of everything you do in the morning. That's awesome.
Mindful, yeah.
So the next question is, hey, Antraniks, I'm a big fan of your recommended routine, which I just started. As someone with unnaturally long arms and legs, what should I keep in mind when following the recommended routine?
Don't give up. Don't let that be an excuse. Don't let that be a limiting factor. Yeah, just so what, you're tall, right? You're tall. It's going to take longer to get these moves because you're a little heavier, your limbs are longer, the leverages are different. Progress is going to be slower. You're progressing faster than you. This is okay. It's not about you competing with others. You're just in competition with yourself, right? It's not really healthy to compare yourself with others. For example, one of my goals, long-term goals, is to hold a front lever. And a front lever is a tough move, okay? And the taller you are, the more difficult it becomes, right? And I know people who are because I know people at the beach, right? And they work out regularly, but there's let's say there's one guy, all he does is pull-ups and dips, and he's on the shorter side. He's 5'3" or something, right? And I'm like, hey, do you ever work on front lever? He's like, no, never. And then he tries it, right? Because we're just playing around. He tries it. He could almost hold a full front lever without even training for it specifically. And I'm there slaving away for 2 years, right? 3 years at that point. And I'm like, shoot, I could barely hold it with one leg tucked in, right? And so, it just shows that, hey, we're on different journeys, different paths. But hey, here's the thing that's the good thing about being taller, okay? Other than you being able to be above everyone else on the dance floor when you're at the club, right? You're not like shrouded with all these people around you. Okay, so but the other good thing is that I've noticed, because it takes longer for me to get these moves, and progress is slower, I find that I learn more about my body. I learn more about different exercises that I need to discover that will help bridge the gap within progressions. And that is a great, for me, that's a great teaching tool. Like, some people who get these moves really fast, they're not the best teachers because they forget, or they don't even know how because they didn't experience that, right? So again, it's maybe one of those blessings in disguise. Maybe you'll be able to help people get achieve moves that they're finding difficult, but you could say, hey, I really struggled with this move because I'm tall, so here, let me help you, right? So let's say you get that move, let's say you were able to achieve that move, right? And you finally got it. You've been trying to get it for like years and years and years. Well, what's going to happen is you're going to just assimilate that in your mind. You're going to say, okay, I can do this. Now, just work on it, because if you would have wanted to start before anyway, so don't let that deter you. Your height or your whatever, it's fine.
And how tall are you, Antraniks?
I'm pretty much 6 foot, maybe 5'11" and something like that. Yeah. One good YouTuber, his name is Tikato, Tykato, Tikato, Tykato. Right. He's like 6'7" or 6'8".
Jesus.
And his whole channel is all about, a lot of it is about body weight exercises. And, I'm watching him progress, and he's still maybe, but for his height, he's doing great. And he's not letting that deter him. And not only that, he's making videos himself showing him doing these moves, right? So it's not impossible. It just takes like consistency. Like, that's all it is. Just keep at it.
And I think it goes for anything, because somebody who's been lifting for as long as I have, I mean, frankly, I'm a tall guy. All of my short friends just got way bigger than me at first because I have longer limbs. So like I had weaker moves, or weaker bench press, weaker all of it. But you just got to push through, man. Just always got to push through. It doesn't matter that you don't compare yourself to them. You'll get there.
Right.
I love your point on failing too. I mean, that's again what Braden said with anything in life. Failure gives you more lessons, and getting back up, you have that much more that you've done, and that much more you can share with people. So
awesome.
Yeah, Braden, do you have the next one?
Sure thing. What's the single most important thing that you do every day? Single most.
Besides breathing, right?
Breathing, right. I don't know. I guess it sounds weird, but the single most important thing, I guess, is taking care of my dog, because she's like my child, and I don't know if I want to wake her up, but yeah, she because I feel really guilty if I don't take care of her. Like if I don't.
Plus one.
I feel like, and here's a little quip I have, because a lot of people, I notice a lot of people in my generation or younger and they can't really take care of them. They don't understand what kind of a responsibility it is. It's a huge responsibility to have a dog. It's like having a 4-year-old that mentally doesn't mature beyond that, right? So you always have to be there. But yeah, you can leave them at home, maybe 8 hours or something if you have to, right? But after that, it sucks. Like if you have a 9 to 5 and no one else is home, you know, like that sucks. That dog is gonna be doing nothing all day. There's no mental interaction, and then you're gonna get home and you're gonna be tired. You're not gonna want to do a lot of things, right? You're probably just gonna be like, well, I'm barely gonna give him a walk. Maybe so a lot of people don't even give him a walk. And if you don't live alone and you live with roommates, it's not fair to your roommates to just assume that they can just take care of your dog. I mean, it's like, that's not cool, you know? It's your dog, like take care of it. If you're gonna get a dog, understand that it's a big responsibility. And you know, dogs live long, like they live 10 to 20 years. It depends on the breed, but that's you can't just like give it to someone else. I mean, you can, but hey, that's like, why'd you even do that if you're gonna do that, right? Yeah.
Definitely.
I love that response, man. That it was totally unexpected, but I love that. I love it. This is the most important thing you do. I'm a dog guy. I love my dog to death. I love your answer, man. That's wonderful.
Cool.
Okay, so the next question, do you have any particular approach to programming for body weight strength training?
Any what, sorry? Any
particular approach to programming for body weight strength training?
It depends on your goals, I guess. I mean, the simplest programming is the one from the recommended routine on our Bodyweight Fitness. I could refer to. It's very simple. It's like 3 times a week. Your goals are 3 sets of 8 reps. Yeah, you can do maybe change that, maybe higher amount of reps or lower amount of reps depending on the intensity you want to achieve. But yeah, that's going to be the easiest way. Other than that, there's periodization, which is a little more complicated. It depends. It's a tough question to answer. It depends how advanced or not advanced the trainee is. So yeah, there's all sorts of ways. One thing I'll say is that consistency is the most important thing. Right? Like programming is suboptimal. Your programming could be garbage, really. But if you are doing it and you're doing it consistently, it's going to be better than the guy who has the most perfect program but only does it like once a month, right? Like so it really is about what is it you are like. It's about you being consistent. That's it.
Awesome. Let me ask you on top of that. So if you do the recommended routine or whatever other program, and then decide to take your muscles to failure by doing some strength training after that, is that, in your opinion, is that okay? Or is there anything to watch out if you want to, go to failure after that with some strength training?
You mean like with like you mean weightlifting afterwards?
Yeah, just if you go through the recommended routine and you're doing whatever progression is the hardest for like the right progression for you, you're challenging yourself, and then you feel like lifting after that.
The Bodyweight Fitness routine is a strength training routine. So if you are weightlifting afterwards anymore, you're kind of doing your own thing. Although in the recommended routine, we do say how to implement or combine weightlifting in the document. So technically, let's say you have a few reps in the tank, you don't have to go to failure to achieve a training stimulus. To achieve a training effect from that stimulus. And honestly, I love cutting my workout slightly short when I feel I'm on, like, I've had a great workout, yeah, I could do another set or two, but you know what? I'm going to stop here because I know I did enough to have a training effect and I'm not injured. Like, that's the most important thing, because sometimes you don't feel the injury that's going to come on, but the risk of injury will occur when you are completely exhausted, right? And your form breaks down, or you don't expect, like, you don't know which muscle is fatigued and it couldn't hold you can't foresee that happening sometimes. And
Right.
and so yeah, like that's yeah, like I like to not go to absolute failure because longevity is important to me. Some people some people, a lot of people I meet who are really old, they can't do a lot of things because of injuries that have compounded over the years. And that's, that's like a fact of life, but that's all, it's also sad, and but it could be curtailed or mitigated by you being a little more mindful and not trying to progress as fast as possible, right? Because sometimes it's more important that you don't be injured.
Right, definitely. That's a beautiful point. I like that. I'm going to ask one more that goes along with that. Do you think you can add or can mix calisthenics with the gym?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's probably the most ideal way to do things. If in regards to efficiency, that's probably the most accurate. That's like the most efficient way to do it for weightlifting, because there are some things that you can do with weights that you can't do with bodyweight exercises, like deadlifts, for example, there are other exercises like isolation exercises. It's very difficult to isolate your muscles with bodyweight exercises because most bodyweight are compound exercises that use multiple major muscle groups. So, but with weights, you can isolate and do a very specific muscle for a specific muscle. For a specific muscle. And so sometimes I would say it's ideal. For me personally, I don't go to the gym because I enjoy being outdoors too much. I enjoy, there's nothing, I don't have anything against barbells and weights. They're great. But I personally go to the beach a lot, and I have access to going to the original Muscle Beach in Santa Monica. And that is like its own community, and I can learn. Yeah. Like, it's addicting to go there. It's something. I hope that more places in the world have adult playgrounds, because why should only kids have playgrounds? Like, everyone needs to play, especially like now. Like, we don't even do anything laborious. Like, it's all like we need some sort of physical something, right? So so yeah, I hope that's actually one of my projects I hope to get on in the future, is to make a video that explains the importance of adult playgrounds to the world, but not just to the world, but also um, to make it such that the video could be presented to a city council.
Yes.
So that a bunch of city council members are watching this, and then they understand how important it is to have a park have equipment that is good for for adults, and because it helps build a sense of community. It helps from a business standpoint. It brings business to the area. People go to the stores surrounding there afterwards to eat or whatever. It also, of course, it brings up the health of a lot of people. And there's another point other than it builds community. Oh yeah, it's really cheap to build these playgrounds, okay? Especially simple pull-up bars, rings, parallel bars. This is really compared to like what the city spends money on, like repaving. Like, the city will like repave entire blocks of streets, right? I mean, they're spending like tens of thousands of dollars like for every block, right? And they could just do a portion of that to make a park that lasts for decades and provides joy to people. Project that I need to get underway, and then show a video that explains that, and then have a document in that video that they can that details the layout plans in detail, how to construct such a thing. Because yes, let's say they're convinced But what if they go about it in the wrong way, and they make bars that are too wide, or laid out parks out there? Or the worst is when a lot of people will, a lot of parks nowadays will have these machines
I was going to ask you about those machines. Yeah.
they're, you know, they say in general they're good for old people because it just helps them move, or kids because they're just like, they find it a little fun. But when you need to increase the resistance, it's just like it'll be like a superfluous movement that doesn't really train you in a progressive manner. So yeah, you're doing this machine that just moves your legs forward and back. Like, let's say that's it. You could do that every day for like the rest of your life. Your legs aren't going to get stronger, you know?
Yeah.
Like, and it
well,
could
and
be
it only caters to the old people too, really. I mean,
right.
and it's great that they have something for that, but it's kind of a waste of money if they only put in those machines and not the bars, like you said, or some of these other things.
It is a waste of money. And I find that the people who are pushing why these machines keep propping up is because the machines know how to make presentations to their city councils.
We're gonna have to talk about this after the fact, because I deal with a lot of major businesses down here in Houston, and we can definitely, I could work with you on this, and I'm genuinely interested in that idea. I've never thought of that, but we need to talk.
I'd like it too, honestly, because I'm actually trying to get some body weight stuff here in my community. And it's just, you know, my community is a small little place, but still, you know, like you said, people don't know the importance of it. And I'm trying to pitch it as it could be used for, you know, the adults could be out there playing with the kids at the same time, you know, doing something and interacting with the kids, even though they're doing a fitness routine of their own. And, you know, the teenagers would use it, you know, it would be such a good thing for our community. So I'd love to see what you put together on that. And I'd love to help you. I'll help you with, you know, putting whatever documents together you need for that. So
right.
Cool.
And you know, a lot of people don't know how to use, let's say they can't do a pull-up, right? And so they feel that bar is useless, right? Well, there could be a simple plaque, you know, with like simple, like it could be literally like, it could just be an infographic that explains, if you can't do pull-ups, this is what you do.
Right.
Okay. If you go to, you know, like it could be a simple thing that's just like printed out. It's like permanent. It's over there. And so people could be educated on how to use these simple bars or whatever is out there, right? It could be like, and yeah, it's so inexpensive, you know. And even if the place that you live in has 4 seasons and it's, you know, half the year it's snowed in and people aren't going to use it, who cares? Like, that's going to be, the park is there anyway, right? And people aren't going to be using it anyway, let's say, but they're in the summer or in the spring, they're going to be using it. And that's a beautiful thing. And it's really important that explain the importance of having traveling rings built, because traveling rings are they're so wonderful, really. They're like it's the best feeling to fly from ring to ring. It jives with so many people. And another thing is, women excel at them, okay? So this is huge, because if you go to a park that only has pull-up bars and parallel bars, it's intimidating as a woman, especially if you can't do a pull-up. You feel like, well, what can I do here? It's kind of like the equivalent of a woman being in a gym. We're surrounded by weights, and it's all just men, right? Like, it's all just men lifting, and maybe there's one woman, maybe, right? Like, it depends on the gym, but you know what I mean. So it's really intimidating for them. But with the traveling rings, it's because it's not all about strength. It's a lot of technique, and it's a very complex movement that requires a lot of practice, and it's really fun to practice it. I feel it appeals to both genders, and that's very important in my opinion. And yeah, so that's got to be part of the presentation to help drive it home, I think.
We're gonna talk about this. I do sales with the cities here. Like, we're gonna talk about this. It's gotta be a real thing. Gotta be live.
Yeah, awesome, man. If we can do that, that would be amazing, because that would really change. a lot. We need to make that a revolution. And then in Virginia Beach, Virginia, they replicated the original Muscle Beach. There over there they have traveling rings. They got the slackline park, they got a rope climb, they got the bars, and just like a miniature version of the original Muscle Beach over there. And it was all because of this one dude who fell in love with the beach and wanted to replicate that there. And he put a lot of his own money into it and fundraised and got in the city to do it. And you know, if they can do it there, why can't they do it everywhere, right? So
Definitely.
Yeah, we need one down here in Galveston for sure.
Yeah, it's
Well, and
tough.
I like what you mentioned about the social and, you know, all the benefits beyond the fitness. You know, there's so many benefits beyond just being fit and moving. So yeah, that's really good. Yeah, let's move on to, we have a couple more from the live stream, some questions. So I've been doing the recommended routine for about a month now, and I was wondering what I should do to even out the size of my muscles between my dominant side and my non-dominant side for biceps and triceps.
Huh. Yeah, that's tough. I mean, I don't know what they're doing. If they're doing weightlifting, I guess, you know, always start, one of those tips I could say is start with your weaker side. That's generally one of those overarching things that you should do, because we tend to just start with our dominant side for every exercise, but try to focus on your weaker side first, because you're going to be doing best at that first. And then also it could be helpful to throw in an extra set of whatever targets those muscles. Just another set that targets those muscles at the end. But also, it could also be, I don't know why there's that imbalance. It could also just be you need to take video of your, and then you might see that you have like your form could be improved, you know. Sometimes you can't tell, sometimes it could be completely, like you would have no idea that your form was off until you take video of yourself and you look at it. So, you know, you might discover that there's one exercise that is the culprit that's causing that imbalance. But yeah, like that's going to take a little bit of exploration, but yeah.
Okay, another one. What do you do for flat feet or bow legs?
For bow legs, I don't know, honestly. I'm not sure. But for flat feet, try to not wear shoes with support, which is probably the opposite of what a doctor might recommend. Doctor would just give you shoes with arch support, but those don't really mold your feet, because you're not giving your feet the stimulus that it needs to.
Right, you're making them lazy, right? With those arches.
Right? So just wearing shoes that, you know, give you the illusion of of normal feet don't really work. So, you know, look into more barefoot hiking. I mean, not hiking, sorry, but barefoot walking if you're always used to wearing shoes.
Isn't that where the barefoot running craze kind of started, is for people to make their feet better? I mean, not necessarily just for flat feet, but better in general.
Yeah, definitely. I got into barefoot walking like eight years ago now. I think it was, maybe a little more. And yeah, that definitely was a craze that I'm really glad I got into. Feet are really strong now. What else comes to mind? Oh yes, there's Kit Laughlin has a good video. Let me look it up. It's on. Oh yeah. So if you type Kit Laughlin or just Kit anti-pronation exercise, about halfway through that video, he shows you the exercise to help improve your flat feet. You know, and he says the colloquial term for pronation is flat feet. So is an anti-pronation exercise. It's basically like a calf raise, but a little bit more nuanced and detailed. So just look up anti-pronation exercise kit, KIT, and that should bring up that exercise on YouTube to implement in your daily, or as much as you can, and that can help restore your arches and give the signal that's necessary, as well as not wearing sandals and shoes all the time. Yeah.
All right. How about, let's see. I love my hot yoga and my hot Pilates using my body weight, but do you see a limitation because I'm not pulling to build my back, and pulling being in quotations?
It depends on your goals. You can, yoga is very good at, or in Pilates, they can still work your pulling muscles, although they do them isometrically, and it's not going to be, it's definitely, they're not going to be as strong as if you were doing pull-ups. Let's put it that way.
Right.
I noticed the marked difference in my posture, like not just my posture. My posture was okay when I started doing yoga after I did it was really easy to hold good posture all day, no problem. So it definitely, there's definitely something to it. I would I would definitely encourage that you work, that you incorporate pulling muscles, the traditional pulling muscles as well, because, and keep doing your yoga or Pilates, whatever you enjoy, because that is great as well. Yeah.
And then let's see, what are your tips for staying consistent on the social sphere and keeping up with your blogs?
Yeah, keeping up. Subscribe to my YouTube channel, and then click the little bell notification anytime I post a new video, because if you're just subscribed, you won't get a notification in your thing. But yeah, that's one way. I have a mailing list. You could find the link to it on my blog, and if I have a new blog post, it will automatically send that blog post. So that's probably the best way. So if you subscribe to the YouTube channel and be on the mailing list, it'll have a blog post up, sent to you in your email. That's probably the best way. Yep.
Perfect.
Awesome. I think those are all of our questions. Do we have any more come in from anywhere that need last minute
you guys that are still present watching right now, or located in our Discord, any questions that you guys might have, any questions from the YouTube comments, we'll throw them in there. But
yeah, I think it's been a long time, longer than I expected.
It's been about an hour and a half of active questions. So
yeah,
we really appreciate your time. I'm so glad that we got this worked out.
I'm glad, because I was nervous before we started. I was like a little anxious, like, oh my God, it's something new.
yes.
but I'm
you did it anyway.
really thankful and grateful for the two of you for helping being such gracious hosts, and helping organize this, and fielding the questions, and just relaying them to me. I haven't even really looked at the chat much throughout the whole time, and that's awesome. You guys helped a bunch. Thank you so much.
And we can't forget our silent partner Ab back there doing all the technical stuff behind the scenes.
Thank you.
He's back there, so shout out to him. But yeah, so don't forget, you guys, to subscribe to Antraniks, Reddit page and his YouTube channel. There's always things that he's posting. He's on Facebook as well, so that's a lot of times where I get information as I'm looking at my soccer stuff. I'll see new rings videos, the ones that you've been posting recently. So, and as you mentioned earlier, someone asked about your yoga stuff. So you mentioned you're going to get some more yoga videos up there or whatnot.
Yeah, definitely. There's always a back, but yeah, definitely, it's awesome. A huge request. But yeah,
and definitely people look out for that video that he does for the Bodyweight fitness parks. I mean, if you heard that one guy went to his city council and got the Virginia Beach stuff, you know, done. So it only takes one person to get something cool like that in your community. So definitely look out for that. And do you have anything else to say to us, Antraniks? If not, we'll say adieu.
I think we'll leave it there. Thanks again. Thank you everyone for viewing and watching. I'm going to be posting this video, so if you didn't catch the live stream, you will be able to watch it anytime you want. And that's about it.
Awesome, man. Thank you so much.
Yeah, have a great rest of your day.
Yeah, you too.
Yeah, you too.
All right, bye.
Bye.